Okay, hello everyone. As I said, I'm super excited for today's events. We have here in the middle a good friends and a legend, Derek Anderson, the founder, the co-founder of Startup Grind and Bevy. And I think you are going to love his journey story today and learn a lot. I'm learning every day. So just for those who join us today for the first time, we are Startup Grind, the world largest community, the largest community for startups. And we're planning to change the world on like one startup at a time. Our mission is to give startups everywhere the education, the opportunities they need to build, grow, and scale their companies. And we believe in making friends, not contacts, in giving first and helping others before helping ourselves. Today is part of a funding month's events that we are hosting in a global level in each chapter, and it's presented by with Oracle for Startups and American Express. So we're saying thanks to each of our supporters in the global level. And today with us also Lirone Glikman. She will moderate this session. And now I will give you both, Derek and Lirone, the stage to enjoy sharing and educating us.
Thank you, Shachar. So good morning, Derek. How are you?
Good morning. Very good. Nice to see Shahar as well. Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone.
So, before we actually start, like we see your person, your people person, I see that straight away. You said, how's everybody? Where are you from? You like the audience, you want them to engage. So I liked it and I like it. And it's definitely a part of who you are. So what time is it over there right now?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Okay, not too bad.
You made it easy on me. Absolutely.
We tried. So Derek, before we start, I'll just give our audience and our joining audience some context. So today, as Shachar said, this is the funding month at Startup Grind. And we invited you with great pleasure and honor to share about your entrepreneurship journey, to share more about the fundraising process and the interesting, and I would even say unexpected way of that you decided to fundraise for your company, Bevy, diversity, and also the future of communities. So before we start, I'll just give a few opening words, and of course, you're invited to share more. So a bit about Derek. I'm sure all of you heard, but just to put it all in the right context. So he's our father here at Startup Grind, if you don't mind me saying. You have 4 and another tens of thousands of people around the world, co-founded Startup Grind and a serial entrepreneur. In 2010, he co-founded Commonred, which was acquired by income.com. And today is the co-founder and CEO of Bevy, which we will talk much about. He has been building communities for over 15 years. And of course, thanks to your work, since 2012, Startup Grind has hosted more than 10,000 events for more than 500,000 people. He lives in Palo Alto, California. It's 8 a.m. right now with his wife and 4 children. And that's about Derek. And Shel, do you want to say a few words about Bevy? Maybe you'll say it better than me.
Well, first of all, it's great to be here. I mean, you mentioned me kind of getting things going. It's Startup Grind, so it's sort of my job to get things going at a Startup Grind event. I've been to many of them over the years, and actually I was in Tel Aviv in 2014, and had a wonderful trip there, and spent 3 or 4 days. I spent 2 days in Jerusalem, just kind of walking around by myself, and Shahar and our other chapter director at the time, Ram, were making sure I wasn't getting into too much trouble over there. But beautiful place. Hope to come back very soon, and grateful to be with all of you this morning or this evening. Bevy is a virtual and in-person community event platform for enterprises, and we help enterprises like Google and Salesforce and Adobe and Snowflake to manage and to scale their communities. And we've been, the company was founded about 4 years ago, and we have about 110 people. And as you mentioned, I'm based in the Bay Area, but the company is remote and has people all over the world.
Exciting, and we're definitely going to learn more about Bevy. But I would like to start with, because we're talking about your entrepreneurship journey and obviously the fundraising, what would be one advice that you wish someone had told you maybe over 15 years ago before you started founding startups?
You know, I think someone probably did tell me this, but it was very hard to listen to. My dad, this is sort of a variation on advice that my dad has given me for a long time, which is that it always takes longer and costs more than you think it's going to. And I think the biggest advice I would have told myself would just be to be patient. And you know, and it is hard. It's hard it looks easy when you read about it in the magazines and online, and I definitely have fallen into that trap too, of saying, oh man, that person, like, it just seems so easy for them. And maybe for like 1 or 2% of people that are starting companies, maybe it really is easy, but it's a very low percentage, maybe less. And so you're probably going to be in the 98, 99% of people. And so you just need to find a way to survive. And you just need to be patient. And it takes people 8 years to get a medical degree, at least in the United States. It takes, 4 years to become a lawyer. It takes 2 months to become a police officer. Very strange. But it just takes time. And I think for me, it took me 8 or 10 years to really understand just even what I was doing, because I needed to get my degree in entrepreneurship. And you can't do that in a school. You have to do that on the job. And if you only have provisions for 3 or 4 years, you'll never survive to that 7th, 8th, 9th year, when you really should have gathered the knowledge you need to be successful.
I never heard this kind of an analogy from, a degree world or a PhD world to obviously that, but it makes so much sense. Obviously, everything that we do ongoingly, we master. And I like how you put it together. And essentially now, obviously, you have the know-how, and that actually brings me to the next question. So based on all this experience, we have a lot of startups, we have a lot of entrepreneurs in different stages here in the audience. And when they found companies, the main question one of the main question is, how can I get the company to the highest valuation? Now, maybe it's too big of a question, but obviously everybody wants to have the high valuation and obviously raise as much as possible. So what would be your tips for that?
Well, there's 2 things you should optimize for. One is definitely delusion, which is the thinking around that. You're gonna have to, if you're gonna be successful, even if the company is, and I talked about 10 years, it may be that you don't find something that you can be successful with for 10 years. And then it's going to take 10 years from there to actually run the company. So look, at the end of the journey, whatever the end is, if that's an IPO or an acquisition or whatever, you need to make sure that you have saved enough equity that it was worth it for your family. So, and usually most of the dilution comes at the very earliest stage, right? You're desperate for investors. You find somebody who gives you a not so great deal just so you can get money to keep running. And then you have to live with that forever. And so, especially early on, and I would say even with me, and I've been around, I've interviewed so many VCs at Startup Grind. read so many things. I would say there's one aspect of one of the investor deals that I did where I sort of got taken advantage of. It wasn't anything illegal, but I just didn't know what I didn't know what to optimize for, and I made a mistake. But that's one out of, I think a lot of different investor things. But it still hurts, when I think about it. And sometimes people make the whole round a mistake, and then the next round they make mistakes, and so it's
accumulated mistakes. Yeah.
Yes, and then you get to the end, and you just don't have anything, and so it was like, well, what was it worth it? I've done so much, and here I am, and I made these investors money, but I haven't made any money for my family. So the main advice with investors, I would say, is you optimize for people, because there's this there's this class of investors that are great investors, and then it's like tiered like this. It's like great investors that won't hurt you, bad investors. Okay. And so,
great investors won't hurt you, bad investors. Okay.
And I've heard great investors refer to some people as, well, they won't hurt you. So it's like they're in that kind of middle category. And so what you should do if you're raising funding, and of course, everybody wants the best investors. Who doesn't want? I want the best investors. Everybody wants them, but you should really try to optimize your process, your networking, the way that you're pitching around specifically great people. Maybe they're not at a great firm, but they're just great people. A lot of times it's the same. A lot of times it's not. But even if you take less valuation, even if you take less money, if you can get a great person involved in what you're doing, it can have a 10x impact. So I wouldn't, of course you don't want to sign a bad deal, but if you establish that it's in a decent terms, and then I would, it's really about the people, and I've seen great investors for myself create massive impact for us, and I've seen some investors do nothing. So it's hard to know, but
you're talking about how involved they are and how committed they are to the success of the startup.
Yeah, and how connected they are and who they know. And I had one. I mean, I'll just share this. Like, one of my investors introduced me in the fall to the CEO of LinkedIn. I don't have any business meeting the CEO of LinkedIn. Like, why should he meet me? I'm this little company. But that led to an investment from LinkedIn, who invested in Bevy in the last round. And it led to all these other cool partnership discussions. So, like, if my VC didn't know the CEO of LinkedIn, I would have never had that meeting. And so, and known that they were like thinking about some of the stuff we were doing. And so you've got to that's what a great VC can do. And not a great VC will just never know that those things happened.
Yeah. And I also, the next question, and we kind of also answered it, was a bit more about the do's and don'ts when you go to, to fundraise and meet investors. I know for some of the Israelis that obviously a lot of them are meeting with investors from the US, so there's some kind of a cultural gap as well. But if you have a definite do and definite don't when it comes to meeting new investors.
Well, all right, I'll just share one thing. I don't know that this is definitely not the world's greatest advice for this, but investors do not like hearing entrepreneurs say, "I'm running a process." So sometimes you hear people say that, "Oh, I'm running a funding process." People don't want to hear that. It doesn't feel natural. It just feels kind of fake. It feels not dishonest, but it just feels like, it's just not. This is not how it works. So that's your pro tip if you're raising funding. Don't tell people you're running a process or you're gonna run a process. Just say, hey, I'm, the business is growing, and and we're considering raising capital for it. And those things, it doesn't start and stop. It just kind of, at least in my experience, it sort of happens. The ones that do work, they just happen naturally. I would say You know, in terms of dues, like, look, these are people these are doors. I've been reading this book about Amazon, and at Amazon, they talk about two types of doors. One is a two-way door. You can walk in and you can walk out. That's like taking a job. Like, you can just quit and then you can walk out, you know? But when you sign up an investor, it's a one-way door. You cannot walk out of that door. There are very rare circumstances where you can. So just anticipate you will never walk out of that door. And so you gotta decide, is this somebody I want to be around for the next 10 years? Is this somebody I want to get on the call with every week? Is this somebody that, like, I'll be like able to take a call from at 10 at night, or or she'll get on the phone with me. So, you know, like, somebody's personality really matters. Like, is this person going to be fun? I mean, that's important to me. Like, am I gonna laugh with this person? Am I gonna, like, are they gonna, you know, is this person gonna encourage me? Are they gonna beat me up on my worst day? Do I want to help them succeed personally in their own other thing? You know, I see that as part of my contract with my investors, is that not only do we work on Bevy together, but I'm there for them in whatever they need. And so, you know, some people you meet and you're like, I don't really want to help this person. You know, I mean, we're not similar. I don't get along with this person. And so, look, if you only have one offer, like, you take what you take. But ideally, you line up with people that become your friends, or that, you know, that you are still excited to talk to them in 5 or 6 years.
You know, I want to highlight what you just said. You kind of outlined different questions that we all need to ask ourselves, or we as entrepreneurs need to ask ourselves about the potential investor, because we choose them the same as they choose us. Obviously, they have the money, but again, we need to really think of them as long-term relationships. And these questions you just raised about different situations that we're probably going to go through with them are very important for each and every one of you here in the audience to ask yourself when you're meeting investors. Now, you know, eventually it's all about relationships, and you talked about it in the various examples that you just gave here. And for me, it's very interesting to know, because obviously Bevy is not your first startup. You have established yourself way beforehand. So the question would be, how did you leverage the fact that you're a serial entrepreneur, the fact that you have connection and experience and reputation when you started to fundraise for Bevy? How do you take the previous entrepreneur and the reputation and turn it into an ask for investment?
Yeah, well, the things that I have worked on that have had success have all had this sort of natural momentum that that honestly I couldn't manufacture myself. So all the things that I've worked on about, let's call it 6 or 7 projects, and really 2 of those have had success. And the other 5, let's say, you know, did not. I worked just as hard on those 5 as I did on the 2. So what's the difference? Well, customers wanted it. There was this natural energy around it, sort of pushing it ahead, helping us, you know, giving us success on things that we probably didn't deserve, but that people wanted it, you know. And so, I don't even remember. What was your question? I'm so sorry. What am I?
How did you leverage your reputation and experience to get investment? Yeah, no, it's okay. It's so, part of it.
So, like, what I wasn't going to do with Bevy was I wasn't going to force it. And when all the natural momentum things started happening, we started signing up customers. Yes, we had to work hard for them, but we didn't work as hard as we should have to get them. You know,
was it the mindset? I mean, sorry, but it's kind of sound like I'm trying to really get to it, because is it your mindset? Is it your confidence?
Well, the main thing is that it's something that people wanted. Yeah, we kept looking for more things to do. We were looking for more areas to improve. Sure, we were building the tool for ourselves. I didn't care if anybody else used it or not. I was just going to pay for it. But yeah, and then we went out and actively were trying, hey, this is cool. This works for us. Maybe this could work for other people. But it had this also this other momentum of like people. The first person I showed it to said, wow, this is so cool. Can I buy this? And I was like shocked. Now the next 10 people I showed it to didn't, but because it was that first one did, I was like, that's so strange. And I showed it to Google, you know, in the first couple of months, and they were like, this is really cool. Go get customers and come back. And they ended up signing, literally it took me 4 years to get them, but you know, this was positive feedback. And to the question of, so these natural things are happening. And then of course I use things from Startup Grind to help Bevy. Like all the first investors were all for people I met at Startup Grind. And I think Startup Grind, even still, it's the best way that I have seen to network with people that, successful people that you want to have in your life. I don't know of any way better than to become a chapter director of Startup Grind and to, you know, to do that really, really well. You can get to know anyone, and that's what I've done, and that's what I did. And then I ended up years later, you know, emailing them in the middle of the night one time to ask them to invest in Bevy, and thankfully a few of them, you know, many of them said yes. So, you know, first customers from Bevy came from Startup Grind, or my relationships at Startup Grind. Our first investors came. All of the first 8 employees were Startup Grind employees. We split the companies in half. So yeah, I mean, a vast amount of the success that we've had at Bevy so far is directly related to Startup Grind. Yeah,
and for the relationship that you had over time with Startup Grind. And I can tell you from my own experience, I've actually joined Startup Grind, I think just after you came to Israel, maybe a month or two later. And in the past, since 2014, this community has helped me globally so much. So I definitely call you here, listeners here as well, because we can all obviously use and can use more of the platform. So thanks for the great example. Now, I want to talk further about investor relations after you've already raised, because you raised 6.4 million in 2018. In this past year, in May 2020, you raised 15 million, and just recently 40 million. So mazel tov, congratulations, as we say. And as the company grows and different rounds have been raised, how did you manage to maintain relationship with your initial investors of the initial round? Because now you have so many, I would call it balls, but obviously investors in the air, and you need to nourish the relationship with everybody. So what tip can you give us here?
Yeah, so, and part of that first round, we raised $1 million the year before, and then we just never announced it, and we put it into that round that was $6 million. So look, some of those people that spent the $1 million, some of them I'm very close with, and some I'm not close with at all. And so, you know, the ones that were spending time with me or would help more, I would spend more time with them. Our very first investor is a guy named Ryan Smith. He's the first person that committed to invest. You know, it was like 12 hours after I asked him. It was incredible. Wow. And he joined the board last year. He bought the Utah Jazz, the NBA team, last year as well. He's an incredible guy, and you know, has helped me so much. But he was the very first investor we had. So I think, look, like, you know, some people do updates for investors every month. I think in the early days, that's really a good thing to do, to just keep everybody on the same page, show them that you're treating their money really well. You know, nobody wants to be the friend that only calls somebody when they need something. Exactly. And so you kind of want to stay close to those people. And like I said, like, it's not a one-way relationship. Like, if somebody invests money in me, like, I'm here to help you do whatever you need too. So like, all through that time, you can do whatever you can do to help them on their other things, and so that you stay top of mind for them. And then when you need something else, or you're going to raise the next round and you need introductions or whatever it is, like you can then, sort of tap into them, and they're like, oh, like, I make lots of investments, and, Shahar is the one that is following up the most, or, or whatever it is. Like, so you sort of, you kind of stand out from their other investments. Now you have to have the traction too, but I think those relationships are not really, it's not hard work. It's just trying to be thoughtful and stay on top of it. And, and again, it's not just like, hey, thanks for the money. And then, hey, I come back in 6 months. Hey, I need more money. Nobody likes that.
So I really try to build the thoughtfulness, authentic relationship over time, and obviously not only for the money. Now, and by the way, I'll just say, I know it was written by Shachar, but feel free to write questions and we'll ask Derek at the end of this session. I already see a few questions. So moving from investment to what also relates to one of your investments, to the diversity topic. So together with your investors, and specifically Kobe Fuller, which I've seen a few interviews of you guys together, and your chemistry, as you're saying, is very well seen. And when you were interviewed together, so you took action and stand following to the Black Lives Matters movement that have really moved everybody, so many, and of course you over there as well in the US. And you decided to take this movement, this message, and do something about it. And what was the process, and what brought you to from a 0 Black employees in your company to get towards 20% Black employees in Bevy?
Thank you for asking about that. Look, I think for we don't just want to build a company. We want to do good in the world. That's not a unique feeling that me and my co-founders have. But as we have talked about that over the last, couple of years, one of the areas where we have particularly been interested in helping and have been very unsuccessful is in racial diversity. And just over a year ago, we had 27 employees. None of them were Black, which, for those, watching from outside of the United States, 13% of the population here is Black. It's about 20, it's over 20 million, people within a working age. I mean, there's plenty of people to choose from. And we weren't actively looking inside of talent pools, of the Black community. And so, we sort of said, hey, this needs to be better. This will make our company better. And in conversations with people like Kobe and other friends, what I came to learn is that not only is it the right thing to do, but it actually make our company so much more valuable, because now we'll be from a much broader talent base. I'll give one example. We recently interviewed a candidate for a job, and I said, well, hey, where are the other candidates? They said, well, we just found one. And I said, well, I'd like to see a few more for this job. And we went back, and the team pushed a lot harder, and they found this amazing Black woman who I'm doing actually after this call, but her resume is impeccable, and she's way better than the person we had found. We just looked harder, and we found someone better. And I think we're going to get a much better person. I mean, knock on wood that the interview goes well today, but I think we're going to get somebody significantly better in the company than we would have if we had not really tried to reach out and find people from different communities in different areas. So, it all starts with 1 or 2 hires. We're now at over 15% of the company is Black. It's been about 9 months since we really started making that effort. It starts, you say, well, how can I do that? I say, well, just find one person, go recruit and hire and interview and reach out and try to find just one person. That's how it starts. And then from there, you can find another person. You can find another person. And And for me, what I found is while it was kind of hard at first, now I find it incredibly energizing to be involved in this cause, because I've seen the positive effects of these people in the company and of being a more racially diverse team. And so so our goal is to get to 20%, as you said, and that's like our first goal. I don't know what we'll do after that, but this is like the beginning of the game for us, and we're gonna try and do other things, the next things, to really push ourselves. Our board, we want our board to be very racially diverse. We want our leadership to be very racially diverse, so we're making changes to
You're
do
on
it.
it. So just to make sure our listeners understand, because I don't think it was necessarily clear, then your investor, Kobe Fuller, is a Black investor there. And I also heard of you talking about the Black investors also in the investors market, which is, maybe if you want to share a few words about that as well.
Well, we said, well, if we're doing this for our internal community, for our employees, why aren't we doing this for our investor community? And that's where a lot of wealth gets created. And one of the things that I have learned has been, that has really slowed down progress for the Black community is they've not been involved in opportunities to really generate wealth. And in many times when they have had something where there was going to start to be a lot of wealth generated for the Black community, those things get shut down. And so investors are able to generate massive returns, technology investors. And so we wanted to include them in that. And again, we set a goal to have 20% of our investors in this round to be Black. And we achieved that goal. We had about 30 individuals invest. People like Omar Johnson, who is the CMO of Beats by Dre, Robin Washington, who's on the board at Google, Peggy Alford, who's on the board at Facebook, many CEOs, James White, who's the former CEO of Jamba Juice for 8 years. I mean, these are like unbelievable people. And now they're helping us and helping us with our mission. This guy, James Lowry, who wrote this incredible book called Change Agent, he was the first Black consultant at McKinsey in 1968. Wow. You can believe that.
What's his name? James Lowry?
James Lowry. And so these are people I've looked up to, and people that, I've seen on CNBC and read in the Wall Street Journal, and they're working with us because really they see that the business can be a great business, but also they see that we can do a lot of good together inside the company. Exactly.
And as you said earlier, it's really about sometimes trying harder. Also, I can tell you from my experience from women recruitment, sometimes it's really about trying harder. And let's move to Israel, the Middle East. So you talked briefly when we started about that you remember your visit here, and Israel specifically and other Middle East countries, they're a mixture of cultures. And if you have any recommendations that you haven't mentioned now, in terms of the cultural differences and inclusions in a multicultural environment like Israel or the Middle East, what can you share with us here that we can do better to include other people?
Yeah, well, the incredible thing about Israel is I feel like it's
everything.
Everything is incredible. Everything. About it. It's a very inclusive place. And it's sort of embedded into the the fabric of the country and the people of, hey, we have not been included. We're going to include everyone. And so when you go there, you feel that. And so look, the other thing about Israel which is incredible, is the Startup Nation, is that it has figured out how to make companies in this far off corner of the world be very relevant everywhere around the world. And so, we have a remote team. A lot of times in Silicon Valley, people would say the same thing. Hey, there's not a lot of Black and brown people in Silicon Valley. I'm sorry, I just can't build a team that's racially diverse. And so, okay, well, we're a remote first team. So it's very easy for us. If you're if you're a company in Israel, you're eventually and very quickly going to have to sell outside of Israel.
Exactly.
So you know, and so you can make an effort from the very beginning. You can say, look, okay, inside of Israel, I don't know what percentage of Black and brown people there are, but maybe it's 5% or 10%.
Different ethnicities as well here, yeah.
So
Arab, Jews, yeah.
You know, for every, if that's how it is in Israel, and it's very difficult, you know, to find people here that need to be in the office with us, anyone we have outside of Israel, we're going to make a huge effort. 50% of the company outside of Israel is going to be racially diverse. I don't know. You could set some very, very high bar, and you know, and you know, you can do what you can do. And so, you know, look, like my two co-founders are two white guys. Like I can't change my co-founders, but anyone that I hire from today, I can make an effort to get the right people in the company.
Exactly. So make a decision from today. So speaking of Israel, actually, I have a little surprise for you. You, of course, remember your interview here, and we actually found a picture from the event. Can you believe it? Let me share it with you. One second. Where is it? Okay. So we dig in and we found, can you see it?
Yes, absolutely.
You can see it. So this, remember Dov Moran?
Yeah, of course. And those that don't know him, he's it's funny, I have these sitting over there. He's literally the creator of the USB drive. And I mean, this was like, it's like the most humble, kind person. I think he sold his company. I have not thought about this in a while, but I want to say for like $3 billion or something. You know, long time ago, like when $3 billion was probably more like 10 or 15. And just, you know, this unassuming, humble, kind, funny, you know, entrepreneur, engineer. And, you know, anytime you've ever used a USB, like, you know, you've touched something.
Think of him. Wow, this is so beautiful what you just said about him. I wish he could hear you, but maybe he can. What do you say, Shachal?
Here?
Dov is disappointed.
Hey, Dov, how are you?
Somebody like you talking about me. Now, I must tell you something. You are one of the best interviewers I ever had in my life. I tell you why. Because, and if you watch again, it's 6.5 years ago exactly. If you watch this interview, I just watched it before. You see someone that smiles, that is easygoing, that asks you what you want to be asked, actually. Doesn't really make your life painful, difficult, and go to the very, very interesting questions that relate to you. What's the motivation behind? Why? What led you there? That's a question you asked me. How was you? Was you really entrepreneurs from the time you were born? By the way, I still wear the same shirt. It's a blue shirt. I think that you were. It's not exactly the same shirt, but I'm the blue shirt, the blue. You say blue.
Maybe that's the color. Blue color. Entrepreneur success. I learned that from you. You know, I saw you in that shirt. I've tried to wear a blue shirt every day the last 6.5 years. No, I'm embarrassed. I'm speaking. If you're on this call, we should just shut it down and have you do the rest here. This is it's such a great pleasure to see you. And you know, honestly, Startup Grind was selfishly created so that I could meet and interview and learn from people like Dov. And you know, I mean, who am I to get to come to Israel and I get one of the greatest entrepreneurs of our generation to learn from and to sit next to him and learn from him and his humility. And you know, that's again the thing I take away. There's many insights on building a business, but it's very hard to be as successful as someone like he has been, and to still be so humble and kind and thoughtful, and as evidenced again today. But I think that's what has stayed with me in our interview, Dov, is that you have been very successful, but you still had the common touch. And a lot of people in your situation, they lose that very quickly, and it's a great lesson for me and for really for everybody here listening to hopefully when they're successful that they still, they still know how to help and they still know how to give back. And, even when they're, in their, after they've had success.
Derek, I can tell you that makes friends, not contacts. I think it's worked very, very good with Dov. From that moment, we're trying to help each other as many times we can and as many entrepreneurs as we can. So many things happen after this interview. And I really learned a lot from that moment. I actually got the book, I think, first before he printed.
Oh, wow.
In my hands before his print.
Dov, what are you working on now? What are you doing now?
Well, I moved from entrepreneurship to investment, actually, because I found that I take my experience, my knowledge, my contacts, my history, my scarves. This is full of scarves, which are very important. I can take all of it and spread it to many companies by having people around me that we work together to actually build many, many companies. So I established a venture capital fund, which is a very unique one, deep technology, a lot of effort into our companies, not just money. We are a relatively large team, not a typical VC, but we do create many, many success stories. I just came to this call after hearing one of our company CEOs talking about the new round that he's doing at a value of $600 million. Last week, we had another company finalizing a round of 450. It's great. Wow. I see how people build it up, and it's a dream for me in a way, because I really touch the future, and I enjoy touching the future. I'm working with amazing people, and I still feel that I am contribute. So hey, no better combination than that.
Well, let me ask you. Sorry, I have to ask questions. Come on. Sorry.
Actually, we got Dov to ask you a question, Derek. Dov has a question.
No. So if I'm, and I don't know how small the investments are, but I assume maybe you could tell us. But if I'm trying to build a relationship with Grow VC, then like how would I start? Like where's the first step? Because it's not, hey, give me money. That's not probably the first step. But like, how do I start, get on your radar in a natural way that could lead to an investment?
That's great. So first, we are investing. The first check is between $500,000 to $5 million. Mostly, the average is about $3 million. $500,000 is like, take some money, walk here, maybe take a piece here, come with the right idea and the right plan. That's more the non-occasion one. That's rare stuff. The regular check would be $2-3 million, but then we invest more, up to $10 million at the company. The idea of how to approach us, well, first of all, build a company, establish a company, find partners, build a team. Team can be 4 guys, 3 guys, yeah. But we want to see you having the ability to find partners. Partners and people are so important in building companies. Nothing is more important than that. That's the first test. Then bring us a good idea. But we really talk about a good idea, something that is breakthrough. Hey, first of all, something that brings true value to the world. True value. If there is no value, we know how to do better marketing or better advertisement or a machine that generates money, there are such companies. Not us, it's others. We want to see true value. We want to see breakthrough. We want to see things which are making this world better. And then it's a matter of how big can you be? How large is the market? If it's a nice company, profits, but small, it's not for us as well, because we are targeting to make an impact with the investment we are doing. That's very simple. Then you just write us an email, send us an email. That's very simple, nothing more than that.
Well, and those things aren't, to truly answer those questions, it's not simple. Those are very hard things to answer, but the what you need to get to is very simple. I love how you said you need to find artists. That's such a thoughtful way. I worked at Electronic Arts as my first job out of college, and that's how they talked about people who made video games. They talk about them as artists Whereas, it's like, oh, it's the world thinks of them as this just making video games, but actually you need to find, I love that, you need to find people that you can really create something with, like almost like art, which is the best products are essentially like it's like great art.
By the way, I must tell you, and then no one knows about it in Israel. It's very, very. So you're the first one to hear. Actually, I'm playing. I didn't play in music before that in my life, for whatever reasons. But if I'm in my office now. If you can take a look here, this is my congos. Wow. Yeah. So I actually began to play music about 2 years ago. I joined a band. I'm playing the congos. Yeah, the band. Yeah. We are going to go to the market, go to have performance as a band. While between every one song to the other, I'm talking for 1-2 minutes about music, startups, and bands, rock bands actually, and the connection between them. Making a startup and building a rock band. This is so similar. It's a difficult approach. You work very hard. You fight a lot. You are disappointed here. You are unhappy there. And everybody is different. So you have these clashes. And there's a leader, that's a CEO. Sometimes he's good. Sometimes he's not. If he's not good enough, there's no rock band. Art, music especially, and high-tech actually do have their common.
I love that analogy. I've never heard that before. I thought you use those drums when you make an investment. You just start banging. In the building up.
I must tell you, first of all, investment is a process. It's not boom. Yeah, there is the minute you sign, but when you sign it, you're so tired, of the negotiation and the problems so you don't really feel it. That's a milestone, but it's a process. How was your round? How was it raising $40 million, right?
That's right. I can relate to this.
He didn't call you.
I should have called. I'm embarrassed. I wish I would have thought to do that. Shame on me. For me, it's always been about traction. Like I have to get the traction and I have to believe it. So I like, for me, it's usually around sales. So like when we got the first investment, I had just closed Salesforce as one of our first 20 customers. And I knew that deal was so hard. And I knew when that deal closed, I said, I can raise money. I should raise money because I need to invest in Salesforce. And then the next round, we'd signed Google as a big customer, right? And that deal was so hard. It took me 4 years to close that deal. And I said, okay, we got that. I can raise. And so, I think for me, like the traction always precedes the funding. And this round, because we involved so many little investors as part of the things we're doing with diversity, I was kind of like closing 50 rounds in one. So that wasn't super fun. But and it was our big investors would have taken the whole thing. They're all of our internal investors, which was great and lucky. But the next morning, I'll be honest. This was just a few months ago. The next morning after closing it, I didn't want to get out of bed. I was just kind of exhausted. And I just kind of like, man, what do I have to do? And to now we have to go prove it again. You've set up more expectations. You closed. Yeah. That's the other thing with investment, as you would know, Dav, is like, you close doors. So I can't sell my company for this amount. I have to go to the next level, right? And so we've got to go earn that. And it's kind of a daunting thing to think about.
I know. Derek, we invested as a fund. We invested in a fund in 22 companies, startups. Mm-hmm. I seen that majority of our companies already did the second round and the third round, some of them fourth round.
Wow.
So I did see in the last 6 years many financial rounds. I have a habit. Every time a round ends happily, we sign, yeah. I go to the CEO and I tell him, listen, I know that you didn't sleep well before because every entrepreneur, I'm sure that you as well, doesn't sleep well. He goes to sleep, he wake up in the middle of the night, hey, do I have enough money to pay salaries for whatever? I need to extend there, and so the entrepreneur lives under the impression that once he get the money, that's great. He can sleep well. So listen, you're going to sleep well 2 nights. And the third night, you'll wake up again because you just understand that you are getting into a new path. And here are the new problems that are just larger.
Yeah.
I hope that you don't experience that. You look like somebody who sleeps well at night.
Actually, last night was one of the worst nights of sleep I've ever had in my whole life. It's funny you say that.
Wow.
And I'm not feeling great, so that's part of it. But I probably woke up about 10 or 15 times last night, and each time I woke up, I thought about something different. And my wife always says, she says, this is not something you want your wife to say, but I'm gonna share it. But what she says, I know how you get so much done because I hear you working in your sleep. You're talking about work while you sleep. And what do I do? I'm not trying to do that. But it's it's like money, the day after you raise money, and this is where I think we get confused as entrepreneurs, where we think, oh, if I just have the money, everything's gonna work. But no, it needs to work without the money. And if it works without the money, then that's when something special can happen. You don't deserve the money if you haven't got something working without it. At least in the kind of businesses that I've worked on. I know some people can't. That doesn't work for me. I have to have traction. I have to have customers. I have to have demand. And then I desperately go to investors and say, I can't fulfill the demand. Please let me have some of your money to do that.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to hear if I have that money. Versus hey, give me your money and then I'm going to figure it all out. That's what works for me.
This is a great tip. And Dov, I want to thank you so much for making the time to join here. You have definitely added so much to this meeting, and you brought so much information from Derek. Thank you, Dov. Keep being amazing as you are, and we'll see you soon, probably.
Let me know how I can please reach out. Let me know if I can do anything to help any of your companies or anything. I would love to. Thank you
so much. So we actually have a few more minutes, and we have some questions from the audience. So I just want to ask you one very short question myself, Derek, if you want to answer very quickly, and then we'll take some of the audience questions. You just how do you nourish your growth mindset? What's your motivator, your fuel that enables you to do this every day and keep grinding?
I mean, when you say that, the first thing I think is fear of failure, which is not. You shouldn't be motivated by fear. Fear's not a good thing to be motivated by. But I just want to do. I want to achieve what I'm supposed to achieve. I want to meet the expectations of the life that I'm supposed to live, and so that pushes me to keep going every day to do something better. And I do really try to live like I don't have a lot of time left. And none of us know. But so I think if you live in a way where, if today was my last day, I probably wouldn't be doing Startup Grind, I would be doing something else, but I'd be hanging out with my kids or, I'd be with my family, but but I think just on a general basis, weeks and months and years, they can go very fast if you're not careful. And so, look, we're all the 40 people that are here. I think we're all in that boat of saying, hey, I don't want to put off the things I want to do. I want to do them today. And so I really respect you all for being like that. That's how I try to be as well. And so.
Thank you. Great notes. And one last question before that. Ram Yonish, which was also the Israeli chapter manager, says hi, and he wants you to come to Israel, just on the comments. I don't know if you saw it. And
Ram saved me. I was going to get myself into some trouble, and Ram saved me in the Middle East. So he has a deep place in my heart.
Bodyguard. We're waiting to save you again. Or you can save us. And just one question, because I know we had a few from Steve Leventhal that said, ask what qualities would a company founder who is a pre-revenue need to have to generate interest from an angel or VC? So what qualities for a founder before revenue would help him to generate interest?
I always liked what Mike Maples and Ann Miraco say at Floodgate, and that's where they talk about somebody who is, really the perfect person to solve a problem. Mm-hmm. And, when you're early in your career, how are you? You're not an expert at anything, but just there may be certain things about your life or about how you were raised or about that just make you a good person to solve a particular problem. And so you say, well, am I the best? I don't know if you're the best, but can you be considered, hey, you might be one of the best because you have this unique life experience and everybody has something to give. So, growing up, I moved around a lot. I was in 10 schools in 10 years, and we lived outside the US for 8 years. I didn't build a travel startup, but I do think Startup Grind and the way that we connect people around the world, it has helped because I grew up with kids from Morocco and Algeria and Turkey and France, and I spend time around people. People from Africa went to our school. I mean, there's people from all over the world that I grew up with in Europe, and so that I think helped inform what Startup Grind ultimately is becoming, and maybe my unique experience is something that makes me an expert in that thing. So whatever that is, find that. Everybody has something to give that's unique and try and build a story around that, and as part of what you're building.
Love it. Thank you so much. So I'll call Shachar to give the final words. Derek, it was so amazing to learn from you, to see you, to surprise you.
Interview. Dov said I did a great interview. That was an amazing interview. Thank you. And thank you for bringing Dov in. That it was, you could probably see it on my face. I was very
I think it's going to be a tradition. Lirone came with the idea, we need to do something, and we thought together what we can do to make you smile and get excited. And I shared with her, the interview 6 years ago.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I want to interview him. We need to get him back to Startup Grind. I want to do an updated interview about his fund, and so we should do that sometime. That would be fun.
Yeah, but make sure
I can organize it. I'm sure you can. But first, Derek, thank you very much for waking up so early for be our guest in Israel.
It's 9 now.
In these small points in the Middle East. Thank you very much. But also next month we are trying, in Startup Grind to build some themes in a global level. So next month we are going to empower more women and bring more women to the global startup ecosystem. For us in Tel Aviv, we just got the confirmation to host our first event in person after a year.
Wow.
So it's going to be, this is the last virtual events we are hosting. Wow. So next event is going to be in person. We will try to do a hybrid event, so more entrepreneurs from Africa, Eastern Europe, and around the Middle East can join us. We're going to host an amazing woman founder. I'm so lucky that she said yes. So now we are preparing, the next event. And another surprise for our community, the Tel Aviv municipality office, the mayor, and also some great friends just confirmed that we are going back to host the summer parties. Yeah. So, yeah.
Maybe come in the summer, Derek.
Maybe.
Just come straight to the party.
Yeah, we will be the
bodyguards.
We will build a quarantine space for foreigners.
That's amazing. That's very exciting.
So
Great.
thank you very much. We are going to update you with in the newsletter and of course on my LinkedIn. Every new update will be there. Derek, now you can go to eat your granola.
I always have hummus for breakfast, so I've got to go have that.
Good answer. Good answer.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a great evening, and thank you for all you're doing to build a great community in Tel Aviv. It's one of the it should be, because it's one of the most amazing places to do a startup in the world. But we're so grateful for all the work that you all put in, and Shahar is our sort of one of our big ambassadors around the world. And as he has educated me, that Startup Grind is sort of a lifelong project, and that's how I look at it as well. He's helped educate me on that, and so and Crumbiz, go sign up for Crumbiz today. You can't do it fast enough. I just got an opportunity, a business opportunity from Dubai, without any any help or any guide. So that's amazing.
It's going to be fun to build the center of global startup ecosystem business opportunities. We will help so many entrepreneurs with a digital platform now to
that, like, are you the best person in the world? Nobody connects people the way that Shahar does, and so he is, I think, a good example of that, of like somebody that is the best person to be solving that problem. And so it's exciting to be part of that, and to get to be part of that community. So thank you.